Good morning and welcome to Bible Every Morning. I do a little bit of commentary at the end, but you know that. So let's not do commentary at the beginning. Let's just get started with the Word of God.
Chapter 9. As soon as all the kings who were beyond the Jordan in the hill country and in the lowland all along the coast of the Great Sea toward Lebanon, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites, heard of this, they gathered together as one to fight against Joshua and Israel. But when the inhabitants of Gibeon heard what Joshua had done to Jericho and to Ai, they on their part acted with cunning, and went and made ready provisions, and took worn-out sacks for their donkeys, and wineskins, worn out and torn and mended, with worn-out patched sandals on their feet, and worn-out clothes. And all their provisions were dry and crumbly. And they went to Joshua in the camp at Gilgal, and said to him and to the men of Israel, "We have come from a distant country, so now make a covenant with us." But the men of Israel said to the Hivites, "Perhaps you live among us, then how can we make a covenant with you?" They said to Joshua, "We are your servants." And Joshua said to them, "Who are you, and where do you come from?" They said to him, "From a very distant country your servants have come, because of the name of the Lord your God. For we have heard a report of him, and all that he did in Egypt, and all that he did to the 2 kings of the Amorites who are beyond the Jordan, to Sihon the king of Heshbon, and to Og king of Bashan, who lived in Ashtaroth. So our elders and all the inhabitants of our country said to us, 'Take provisions in your hand for the journey, and go to meet them and say to them, "We are your servants. Come now, make a covenant with us. Here is our bread. It was still warm when we took it from our houses as our food for the journey on the day we set out to come to you. But now, behold, it is dry and crumbly. These wineskins were new when we filled them, and behold, they have burst. And these garments and sandals of ours are worn out from the very long journey." So the men took some of their provisions, but did not ask counsel from the Lord. And Joshua made peace with them and made a covenant with them to let them live, and the leaders of the congregation swore to them. At the end of 3 days after they had made a covenant with them, they heard that they were their neighbors and that they lived among them. And the people of Israel set out and reached their cities on the 3rd day. Now their cities were Gibeon, Kephirah, Beeroth, and Kiriath-Jearim. But the people of Israel did not attack them, because the leaders of the congregation had sworn to them by the Lord, the God of Israel. Then all the congregation murmured against the leaders. But all the leaders said to all the congregation, "We have sworn to them by the Lord, the God of Israel, and now we may not touch them. This we will do to them. Let them live, lest wrath be upon us, because of the oath that we swore to them." And the leaders said to them, "Let them live." So they became cutters of wood and drawers of water for all the congregation, just as the leaders had said of them. Joshua summoned them, and he said to them, "Why did you deceive us, saying, 'We are very far from you,' when you dwell among us? Now therefore you are cursed, and some of you shall never be anything but servants, cutters of wood and drawers of water for the house of my God." They answered Joshua, "Because it was told to your servants for a certainty that the Lord your God had commanded his servant Moses to give you all the land, and to destroy all the inhabitants of the land from before you. So we feared greatly for our lives because of you, and did this thing. And now behold, we are in your hand. Whatever seems good and right in your sight to do to us, do it." So he did this to them, and delivered them out of the hand of the people of Israel, and they did not kill them. But Joshua made them that day cutters of wood and drawers of water for the congregation and for the altar of the Lord, to this day, in the place that he should choose. Psalm 140. To the choirmaster, a psalm of David. Deliver me, O Lord, from evil men. Preserve me from violent men, who plan evil things in their heart and stir up wars continually. They make their tongue sharp as a serpent's, and under their lips is the venom of asps. Selah. Guard me, O Lord, from the hands of the wicked. Preserve me from violent men, who have planned to trip up my feet. The arrogant have hidden a trap for me, and with cords they have spread a net. Beside the way they have set snares for me. Selah. I say to the Lord, "You are my God. Give ear to the voice of my pleas for mercy, O Lord." O Lord, my Lord, the strength of my salvation, you have covered my head in the day of battle. Grant not, O Lord, the desires of the wicked. Do not further their evil plot, or they will be exalted. Selah. As for the head of those who surround me, let the mischief of their lips overwhelm them. Let burning coals fall upon them. Let them be cast into fire, into miry pits, no more to rise. Let not the slanderer be established in the land. Let evil hunt down the violent man speedily. I know that the Lord will maintain the cause of the afflicted and will execute justice for the needy. Surely the righteous shall give thanks to your name. The upright shall dwell in your presence. Psalm 141, a psalm of David. O Lord, I call upon you. Hasten to me. Give ear to my voice when I call to you. Let my prayer be counted as incense before you, and the lifting up of my hands as the evening sacrifice. Set a guard, O Lord, over my mouth. Keep watch over the door of my lips. Do not let my heart incline to any evil, to busy myself with wicked deeds in company with men who work iniquity, and let me not eat of their delicacies. Let a righteous man strike me. It is a kindness. Let him rebuke me. It is oil for my head. Let my head not refuse it. Yet my prayer is continually against their evil deeds. When their judges are thrown over the cliff, then they shall hear my words, for they are pleasant. As when one plows and breaks up the earth, so shall our bones be scattered at the mouth of Sheol. But my eyes are toward you, O God, my Lord. In you I seek refuge. Leave me not defenseless. Keep me from the trap that they have laid for me, and from the snares of evildoers. Let the wicked fall into their own nets, while I pass by safely. Chapter 3. If a man divorces his wife, and she goes from him and becomes another man's wife, will he return to her? Would not that land be greatly polluted? You have played the whore with many lovers, and would you return to me, declares the Lord? Lift up your eyes to the bare heights, and see. Where have you not been ravished? By the waysides you have sat awaiting lovers, like an Arab in the wilderness. You have polluted the land with your vile whoredom. Therefore the showers have been withheld, and the spring rain has not come. Yet you have the forehead of a whore. You refuse to be ashamed. Have you not just now called to me, My father, you are the friend of my youth. Will he be angry forever? Will he be indignant to the end? Behold, you have spoken, but you have done all the evil that you could. The Lord said to me in the days of King Josiah, Have you seen what she did, that faithless one, Israel? How she went up on every high hill and under every green tree, and there played the whore? And I thought, after she has done all this, she will return to me. But she did not return, and her treacherous sister Judah saw it. She saw that for all the adulteries of that faithless one, Israel, I had sent her away with the decree of divorce. Yet her treacherous sister Judah did not fear, but she too went and played the whore. Because she took her whoredom lightly, she polluted the land, committing adultery with stone and tree. Yet for all this, her treacherous sister Judah did not return to me with her whole heart, but in pretense, declares the Lord. And the Lord said to me, Faithless Israel has shown herself more righteous than treacherous Judah. Go and proclaim these words toward the north and say, Return, faithless Israel, declares the Lord. I will not look on you in anger, for I am merciful, declares the Lord. I will not be angry forever. Only acknowledge your guilt, that you rebelled against the Lord your God and scattered your favors among foreigners under every green tree, and that you have not obeyed my voice, declares the Lord. Return, O faithless children, declares the Lord, for I am your master. I will take you, one from a city and two from a family, and I will bring you to Zion. And I will give you shepherds after my own heart, who will feed you with knowledge and understanding. And when you have multiplied and been fruitful in the land, in those days, declares the Lord, they shall no more say, the ark of the covenant of the Lord. It shall not come to mind or be remembered or missed. It shall not be made again. At that time Jerusalem shall be called the throne of the Lord, and all nations shall gather to it, to the presence of the Lord in Jerusalem, and they shall no more stubbornly follow their own evil heart. In those days the house of Judah shall join the house of Israel, and together they shall come from the land of the north to the land that I gave your fathers for a heritage. I said, how I would set you among my sons, and give you a pleasant land, a heritage most beautiful of all nations. And I thought you would call me my father, and would not turn from following me. Surely as a treacherous wife leaves her husband, so have you been treacherous to me, O house of Israel, declares the Lord. A voice on the bare heights is heard, the weeping and pleading of Israel's sons, because they have perverted their way. They have forgotten the Lord their God. Return, O faithless sons. I will heal your faithlessness. Behold, we come to you, for you are the Lord our God. Truly the hills are a delusion, the orgies on the mountains. Truly in the Lord our God is the salvation of Israel. But from our youth, the shameful thing has devoured all for which our fathers labored, their flocks and their herds, their sons and their daughters. Let us lie down in our shame, and let our dishonor cover us. For we have sinned against the Lord our God, we and our fathers, from our youth even to this day, and we have not obeyed the voice of the Lord our God. Chapter 17. And after 6 days Jesus took with him Peter and James and John his brother, and led them up a high mountain by themselves. And he was transfigured before them, and his face shone like the sun, and his clothes became white as light. And behold, there appeared to them Moses and Elijah talking with him. And Peter said to Jesus, Lord, it is good that we are here. If you wish, I will make 3 tents here, one for you, and one for Moses, and one for Elijah. He was still speaking when, behold, a bright cloud overshadowed them, and a voice from the cloud said, This is my beloved Son, with whom I am well pleased. Listen to him. When the disciples heard this, they fell on their faces and were terrified. But Jesus came and touched them, saying, Rise and have no fear. And when they lifted up their eyes, they saw no one but Jesus only. And as they were coming down the mountain, Jesus commanded them, Tell no one the vision until the Son of Man is raised from the dead. And the disciples asked him, Then why do the scribes say that first Elijah must come? He answered, Elijah does come, and he will restore all things. But I tell you that Elijah has already come, and they did not recognize him, but did to him whatever they pleased. So also the Son of Man will certainly suffer at their hands. Then the disciples understood that he was speaking to them of John the Baptist. And when they came to the crowd, a man came up to him, and kneeling before him said, Lord, have mercy on my son, for he is Caesar's, and he suffers terribly. For often he falls into the fire, and often into the water. And I brought him to your disciples, and they could not heal him. And Jesus answered, O faithless and twisted generation, how long am I to be with you? How long am I to bear with you? Bring him here to me. And Jesus rebuked the demon, and it came out of him, and the boy was healed instantly. Then the disciples came to Jesus privately and said, Why could we not cast it out? He said to them, Because of your little faith. For truly I say to you, if you have faith like a grain of mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, Move from here to there, and it will move, and nothing will be impossible for you. As they were gathering in Galilee, Jesus said to them, The Son of Man is about to be delivered into the hands of men, and they will kill him, and he will be raised on the 3rd day. And they were greatly distressed. When they came to Capernaum, the collectors of the 2 drachma tax went up to Peter and said, Does your teacher not pay the tax? He said, Yes. And when he came into the house, Jesus spoke to him first, saying, "What do you think, Simon? From whom do kings of the earth take toll or tax? From their sons or from others?" And when he said, "From others," Jesus said to him, "Then the sons are free. However, not to give offense to them, go to the sea and cast a hook and take the first fish that comes up. And when you open its mouth, you will find a shekel. Take that and give it to them for me and for yourself."
The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God, Father. Speak to us this morning. Give us refreshing words for this day. In your name, amen. All right, let me scroll. So, in case you didn't know, yesterday was officially my first time doing the scrolling. I have been tasked, or I'm tasked myself with learning how to do all of this myself because, I love my team, but the more I know, the better equipped I am to understand everything that goes on here. And so I'm doing the scrolling now. So the Gibeonite deception is the heading for this chapter of Joshua. And this is shrewd and brilliant of the Gibeonites. And it puts Joshua and the Israelites in a bit of a quandary. God said, go and, drive out the nations before you, or conquer the nations that are in this land. And so they come with a reputation. At least to this point, they already have a reputation. They've beaten Og, king of Bashan. They beat somebody else, and they just defeated Ai, a resounding victory. And so word is spreading, word of mouth, or word of foot. Messengers run to the surrounding regions, or messengers. This is what happened. The Israelites are on their way. And so these guys, the Gibeonites, was like, well, we have this life that we live, and we know it's about to change because the Israelites are here. They're coming, and there's nothing we can do about that. And it's either fight to the death or figure out a way to survive. And that's what we have here. The Gibeonites are like, well, let's just go and plead our case, and here's our story. Let's get our story straight. Let's go and say thus and such. We're from far away, etc. And it turns out they weren't from far away, and that's the deception. They were, I think, next on the hit list, and they saw and wisened up. Now the question is it disobedient to God that the Israelites did not destroy them? Right? Because Joshua, is it Joshua? Let's see. Joshua summoned them and said to them, "Why did you deceive us? Why did you deceive us? Because you're going to destroy us. Why did you deceive us, saying, we are very far from you when you dwell among us? Now, therefore, you are cursed." And so the deception, there is a curse to the deception. And I wonder if they had come without deceiving and just said, hey, this is who we are. We're right here. Right. So maybe the deception was wrong, but the shrewdness of going to them was good, because indeed they survived. And there's a verse, better to be, I don't remember how it goes. Better to be a doorkeeper in the house of the Lord than, and I don't remember the rest of it. But here they are servants. They've become subjugated to the Israelites, yet they survive. And that's far better than the alternative. And that is the lesson here. Here's another lesson here, which reemphasizes something that we've already been seeing, is Israel is not, yes, it's an ethnic population, but it's an ethnic population that takes in other ethnicities all the time, right? It's an ethnic population that continues to grow in its, I guess, as we would say in today's terms, the gene pool expands. right? They keep taking in outsiders constantly all through the history of Israel. And that should be a clear, I mean, that's God's standard. God's not ejecting those who aren't of Israel. He's accepting. As long as they accept the Lord and the customs and the ways of the Israelites, they become Israelites themselves. And so, I mean, we saw that earlier with Rahab. She is the great, 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 great grandmother of Jesus Christ himself. So I'm going to move on. And there was one thing I wanted to say in, this is just an aside, in Psalm 141, verse 6. Every now and then, these certain things just jump out to me. When their judges are thrown over the cliff, when their judges are thrown over the cliff, they shall hear my words, for they are pleasant. And even though this is in the context of poetry, there's, poetry includes literal things at times. And so it seems like, here. All right. I'm going to finish this thought here in a second, but I do have comment section over here. And thank you, Mom, Bonnie. Better to be a doorkeeper in the house of the Lord than dwell in the tents of the wicked. There it is. Thank you. Better to be a doorkeeper in the house of the Lord than to dwell in the tents of the wicked. And that's the case of the deception of the Gibeonites is like, well, we're either enemies or friends, or servants, and better to be servants than enemies and be destroyed by this massive horde that just came out of the wilderness. Thank you, Mom. All right. So thrown, verse 6, when their judges are thrown over a cliff. And it's like, what? In this part of the world, there's cliffs. You may live in a flat land, but how, capital punishment is carried out in a number of ways. And it seems like the wicked teachers of the people, one of their penalties was to suffer defenestration. Actually, defenestration is falling out of a building, but I guess this is the Old Testament version of that, thrown off a cliff. New word, defenestration. Yeah. All right. Now we're going to get to I can't say it's my favorite, but it's one of my all-time favorite passages in the New Testament, or of all scripture, the Transfiguration. I was going to go back and talk a little bit more about something in chapter 16 that I didn't get to yesterday, but we'll just move on and we'll get to chapter 16 next time around, as we're reading this again. The Transfiguration. And in meditating on what exactly is going on here. So after 6 days, from the preceding discussion or scenario that we were reading about, he took Peter and James and John. So it's 4 guys, and then led them up a high mountain by themselves. A high mountain. So this is a hike. Right? They are, clearly sweating. It doesn't say how long it took them. It doesn't even say specifically what mountain. I think biblical archaeologists and historians know, and I don't have that at my fingertips, what mountain this was, but they're on a hike, a high mountain. It doesn't say up a hill over there, a high mountain. And he by themselves, and he was transfigured. So he gets up there. It's not while they're hiking, when they're at the top of this mountain. And he was transfigured before them. His face shone like the sun, and his clothes became white as light. And so his clothes becoming white as light, it's his body underneath the clothes. That's my interpretation of this. If his face is shining like the sun, all of his skin, his whole body, he himself, every cell within him starts to shine super bright. And, it's coming through his clothes. It's so bright that it seems like his clothes are shining white as light as well. Behold, there appeared to them Moses and Elijah talking with him. Now, when I look at this, here's Jesus, and he knows that Moses and Elijah are going to be there. In fact, and this may or may not be the case, but I like to think of this as we look at 4 guys hiking up a mountain, but Jesus, it may have been 6 guys hiking up a mountain, right? It may have been Jesus talking, Peter, James, and John, come with me. And then he looks in the other direction. Moses and Elijah, come with me. I mean, not that Moses and Elijah, because they're in the temporarily disembodied state, not that they had to hike up a mountain, but Jesus knowing what is across the threshold, right? There's a threshold here of the physical that Jesus is peeling back. This is a peeling back of the veil for his closest friends, Peter, James, and John, his inner circle of this inner circle, right? The 12 is the inner circle, but then there's a smaller inner circle. And you might even say Jesus and John were best friends. And then Jesus, James, and John, James, Peter, and John are this foursome that's an inner circle. And he's like, all right, guys, there's a whole lot of stuff coming that is going to be shocking and disturbing to you. So let me just blow your minds right now and show you what is really going on, who I really am, and he peels back the veil of reality. That the Mount of Transfiguration is Jesus revealing just a brief glimpse of what is to come for all, right? This is, and so I like to say 6 guys hiking up a hill, even though they're up a mountain, even though for John and Peter and James, it was just the 4 of them. And now they're like, this is spectacular. Let's build a tabernacle, or let's build some booths is technically the term, like tents, as altars, because, we're just going to hang out here. And then when he was still speaking, he was still speaking when, behold, a bright cloud overshadowed them, and a voice of the cloud said, "This is my beloved Son, with whom I am well pleased. Listen to him." And they were terrified and fell on their faces. And Jesus came and touched them. He just put a hand on their backs or their heads or their shoulders. Rise and have no fear. And they lifted their eyes, and they saw no one but Jesus only. And this is the end of the brightness, right? It's like, where'd everybody go? And he said to tell no one. He came down until the Son of Man is raised from the dead. Ooh, that is a tall order. Their minds have just been blown. They've just seen something that they can't explain. And he's telling them not to tell anyone. He does this all the time. And it doesn't explain exactly why. But he does give them a time frame. He's like, until the Son of Man is raised from the dead. And they're probably just still so bewildered by what they experienced that kind of probably goes in one ear and out the other. Maybe not. Maybe when he says, till the Son of Man is raised from the dead, and they're like, wait, what are you talking about? Raised from the dead? You are the King. You are the Messiah. You are the all-powerful. What are you talking about? All right. And then we get back into miracles. Heals a boy with demon. And so Jesus starts to tell them what's coming. He foretells death and resurrection. And I do want to spend the last minute on this one thing, talking about taxes. Does your teacher not pay the tax? Jesus like, go catch a fish, and there will be a coin in its mouth. I'm like, what? Now, I don't think this fish was suddenly formed from nothing at that moment, and that coin was suddenly formed from nothing. I think that coin, maybe some fisherman was out fishing one day, and he was counting his change or whatever, and somebody rocked the boat or bumped him, and one of those coins, or all of those coins, flipped out of his hand and dropped into the sea and was gone forever. Poor guy, right? Poor guy just lost money. Yet Jesus is like, well, there's a fish. Either on the way down, that fish grabbed it and it had just happened, or it had been down there for a long time and the fish thought it was a piece of food and picked it up. Or right when Jesus was saying these things, the fish went and picked it up. We don't know the specifics, and why am I fixating on this? I just think it's fascinating because this really happened. I mean, it really happened. They catch a fish, and in its mouth is a coin, and there, go pay the taxes. It's just one of those mind-boggling little events. All right, gotta go over to the chat session and join us. See you guys next week.